I'm sure you all have seen the best striker in the UFC, the best grapplers in the UFC videos, the tier list. You've all seen them, okay? You know, they've been around for years, okay? But I bet none of you have ever seen the worst strikers in the UFC tier list. And today, that is what we're going to be doing. I've got loads and loads of fighters who I think would make this list all around the screen, and I'm going to drag them all in one by one and explain why they're in the position they're in. We're going S tier is the worst strikers in the UFC, and we're going to go all the way down to F, who are still bad, but better than the ones above them in the list. So let's start off with Kobe Covington. Now, I know what you're thinking. This guy, you know, he could be challenging for a belt soon against Edwards. Well, let me be honest, guys. He ain't good at striking, okay? His grappling saves him. His cardio saves him. He's a bit of a cardio merchant, you know. Without that cardio, that guy, he's probably not even in the top 15, to be honest. You know, he's probably just going to get knocked out in round 3 by good strikers. He has pillow punches. He has no power whatsoever. All his finishes pretty much have been on the ground. And Kamaru Usman chinned him twice. He knocked him down twice. At least twice. I think twice in the first fight and again in the second. And Usman isn't a very good striker. So, yeah, we're going to be putting Kobe in F for being better than basically everyone else on this list, but still not very good at striking, especially considering he's challenged for a belt twice and he actually might get a third title shot. So he's definitely the worst person in the UFC to ever fight for a belt 3 times. Moving on, we've got Dricus du Plessis. Now, Dricus, this guy is dangerous on the feet, but he ain't good on the feet, you know. This guy's punches are insane. He just kind of giga chads his way through every fight. He's got a decent chin, and his cardio is really weird. 1 minute he'll be gassed, the next minute he'll be getting a second wind, and he'll be KOing you. And yeah, if this guy didn't have power, he would be nowhere near the rankings. But honestly, I love this guy fighting. It's really funny watching him just tear through everyone. People who are actually more skilled than him but just don't have that super chin. And him knocking out Derek Brunson was just hilarious, to be honest. Rest in peace, Derek Brunson. But yeah, Dricus is there. No surprises there, obviously, you know. And he might actually be fighting for a belt if he somehow beats Rob Whittaker. I don't think he will, obviously, but I mean, you never know. He might just out-chin him because, you know, Whittaker's chin is a bit worrying at times. Moving on up, we've got Ben Askren. Now, yeah, Ben Askren, you're going... No, I'm joking. You're not going in D tier. You're going in B tier because you are bad at striking. So Ben's going right there. If anyone's seen the Jake Paul boxing fight, you'll know why. He got KO'd by a Disney YouTuber in 40 seconds. And yeah, all his UFC fights have just been complete failures, to be honest. I know he won one against Robbie Lawler. But yeah, I mean, this guy got KO'd in 5 seconds. He's basically setting records for all the wrong reasons in the UFC. And he does fight like someone who's never trained in their life. Obviously, his wrestling's good, but we're not talking about that here. He's striking. I mean, has anyone ever seen that spinning back fist? That's literally all I need to say about how bad his striking is. The only reason he isn't higher up on the list is because his striking's quite conservative. You know, he knows he's bad at striking to a degree. The most crazy thing he's ever tried to do is that spinning back fist. But people on this list you'll see above him, they think they're good at striking, which just makes it even more cringe and embarrassing to watch, but it's still funny. Moving on, we've got Chase Hooper. Now, I'm going to put Chase Hooper in C tier because... Oh, that's Dricus. Hang on. I'm going to put Chase in C tier because I think, even though he's really bad at striking, he wins fights, and he just picked Nick Fiore. So, yeah, his pressure is good. I do like his pressure. He's got decent cardio, so he can just set a nice pace. But mark my words, when this guy fights someone with accuracy and a bit of power, he's getting destroyed again. He already got chinned really badly in his previous fight to this Nick Fiore fight. And yeah, this guy ain't beating anyone good in the top 15, especially in lightweight. It's full of killers. Yeah, he just runs forward, and his striking's so bad, but he just pressures, and people just kind of cave in, or they just destroy him. So, yeah, I'd never pick Chase Hooper to be anyone who's moderately good at striking, because he'll just get knocked out in the first round, because he's really, really he just goes forward, and he does he just hands down and just swings, you know. So he's gonna be getting knocked out soon. But yeah, moving on, we've got Paddy the Baddie. Now I'm gonna put Paddy in D tier because Paddy's got kicks, you know. He does spice it up. And he's got a few nice knockouts. I'll give him that, you know. So I'm not gonna say this guy's striking is terrible, but he couldn't really outstrike Jared Gordon, which is a bit worrying. Jared Gordon is not on this list, but if he was, I'd put him in probably C tier. But I'm going to let Paddy off and not put him in C tier because I do believe that, you know, Paddy has kicks, he has head kicks, his body kicks, elbows, you know, he uses more stuff, but his chin's up in the air. He just kind of, sometimes he's getting caught out, and then he moves back really rigidly and straight, and it's just asking for someone with long arms to land a hook on him one day. I can see that happening if he fights a more skilled opponent. But you know, yeah, that's Paddy. He will beat these cans. You know, he can crush cans. I can rely on him to do that. But I think basically everyone in the top 15 at lightweight will find that chin at some point in his fights. And yeah, I don't really fancy his matchups in there, so that's why he's there. His bad technique, but he's good. His striking itself isn't that bad, but he has bad habits of striking. You know, the chin's up and he moves back really weirdly. So yeah, that's why he's there on the feet. And obviously he couldn't beat Jared Gordon in a fight, which is worrying. Next up we have Lauren Murphy. We're gonna put her in B tier. Honestly, I watched this this woman fight, and it really does make me wonder how she became a fighter. Because her striking, it literally looks like she just picked up the gloves for the day just to fill in on someone else's space. Because honestly, I just feel sorry. She just can't strike at all. It's really hard to watch it happen. But yeah, I just feel sorry for her, to be honest. If any of you remember that fight against, I mean, she's had a lot of bad fights, but that fight against Jessica Andrade, oh my, how is she alive after that? Honestly, that was genuinely hard to watch. I did not enjoy that one bit. I felt really sorry for her, and I think they should have probably thrown in the towel because that was just not necessary damage she needs to be absorbing at this point in her career. And that's one of the reasons why she's here. She has no threat in the striking whatsoever. You could literally run with your hands down and you would never get finished by her. She has no threat on the striking, no technique either, and no speed and no power. So that's why she's in B tier. You know, we're putting her there. Moving on up. Who should we go for? We've got Sean Brady, okay, and we're gonna put Sean Brady. We're gonna put him in C tier, right? And it's a bit controversial, I know, but let me just tell you something. This guy's got one loss, right? I think he's got 16 wins. How is his striking that bad when he's only got one loss? I don't know. He must have been fighting the worst guys, okay? Because I know his wrestling's really good, but he got knocked out by Bilal. And it wasn't even like, oh, we didn't see that coming, you know what I mean? Like, it was like a 2-minute long KO, you know? Like, Bilal was just landing, and this guy had nothing to offer him. He couldn't even swing back. His chin's that bad. He was just getting chinned by like gusts of wind in his direction. It was really, really funny. And yeah, this guy, honestly, he's never making it anywhere near the belt with that dodgy chin and that bad striking. You know, you can wrestle all you want, but you're eventually going to get caught. And yeah, this guy's a bit of a disgrace in the welterweight division. I can't even believe he's ranked. And I can't believe he's only lost once. Who was he fighting before the UFC? I have no idea. But honestly, there were cans, I'll tell you that much. So yeah, that's why he's in C tier. Who next? Let's go for... We got Chris Daukaus. Yeah, Chris Daukaus is just Chris Daukaus, you know. I mean, let's be honest, he's a middleweight in disguise. You know, this guy ain't a heavyweight at all. He's like... I know he's like 6'1". This guy's a middleweight or at least a light heavyweight. But honestly, he needs to stop fighting in heavyweight. Because every time it's happening, he's just going to get knocked out by guys that are bigger, stronger, and actually better at striking than him, which is surprising because heavyweights are bad at striking in general, you know? Their technique is off, and he's getting knocked out by all of them, which just shows how bad he is considering he's basically a middleweight in disguise, okay? This guy's a middleweight. He can cut that weight. I know he can. He isn't even big. He's basically a small light heavyweight, to be honest, you know? And yeah, Chris Daukaus, he's really bad. Both of the Daukaus brothers are. And this guy, he needs to move down to welterweight or middleweight, because I'm really worried about his life when he keeps on fighting at heavyweight. Because, you know, if they put him up against Derek Lewis again, it is all over. Anyway, moving on, we've got Tony Ferguson. We're gonna put Tony in. We're gonna put him in C. We're gonna put him in C tier. He can join Chase Hooper and Sean Brady, because you know, and this is current Tony. Okay, I'm not talking about the prime Tony, prime El Kukui. This Tony, he's not a threat at all on the feet. I think Paddy the Baddy could probably beat him in a fight, maybe. And that's saying something. But yeah, this Tony, you know, he's a shadow of his former self. He's slow. He has no power. He elbows from like 4 foot out. I don't know if anyone ever noticed that in his last 2 fights. He was throwing elbows when he was literally a meter out. I don't know what he was expecting to happen with that. And obviously, I might have put him in D tier, but the fact he threw sand at Justin Gaethje, that really knocks him down a few points, because, you know, I don't really think throwing imaginary sand at people is that effective when you're in a fight, you know, to get a fight against Khabib. But you know, it's Tony Ferguson. He does what he wants. So that's why he's going to be there. Obviously, if it's prime Tony, he wouldn't be on this list at all, because he was a lot more lethal. But, you know, just due to his slowness, his silly fight IQ and stuff like that, he's there on the list. Moving on, we've got Derek Brunson. Now, I'm noticing I haven't really filled out A tier that much, but we've got a few for it. Derek Brunson, he's going to be going in B tier. Anyone that gets this fight in middleweight and has takedown defense should just be thanking the UFC, because it's a free contract payment, to be honest. You know, whatever contract you're on, you're getting that win bonus, because this guy's terrible at striking. He's a free win. Drickus found that out earlier this year. He just destroyed him. And considering Brunson's been on the scene for so long, his striking's terrible. Obviously, the Adesanya fight is one to look at. He just got hurt so bad by a much more technical striker. He has got a bit of power, you know, when people are slugging it out, he can win then. But that's just more of a power thing than like I'm a good striker thing, you know, because it's basically whose chin will crack first. And Brunson's chin's really inconsistent. Sometimes he'll get knocked out by like the lightest of punches, but then he'll take like a massive head kick and be fine. It's really weird. But yeah, that's why he's here. His inconsistency on the feet. His chin definitely doesn't help. He's got a pretty weird chin, as I've just said. But yeah, he's got such a basic style of fighting. Like, it's really slow. Kind of fights like he's 45, you know what I mean? So that's why he's there on the list. I've just noticed that I haven't filled out A tier. I've got S tier for a special someone, the worst striker in the UFC, I think. But so yeah, we're gonna put A tier. We've got Jimmy Crute, okay? And I know this guy can knock people out, but please watch his fights, okay? Because they're funny, okay? They're funny, right? The boxing he's basically trained to be worse at boxing. I think if this guy never if this guy never trained, I think he would be better at striking than he is now. His striking is genuinely so bad, and it makes me just not want to pick him in any fight ever again, because it's so unreliable. You know, his grappling's really good, but he's such a worry on the feet. Every time I'm watching, I'm just anticipating the next massive mistake he's going to do to leave his chin wide open to get knocked out. You know, he fights really weirdly. He kind of fights like he's like either like maybe drunk. I'd say he kind of fights like a drunk American in a bar, you know what I mean? In like a bar fight. But the difference is he isn't drunk and he's a professional fighter. So he can't really be doing that in a UFC cage, considering he's in middleweight and there's some, you know, power punches in there. But yeah, Jimmy Crute, likable guy, but he can't strike. He just can't strike. Moving on, we've got Takashi Sato. We're gonna be putting Takashi in. We're gonna put him in A. And I know you're thinking, whoa, that's crazy. You know, he's a better striker than Lauren Murphy. Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, he probably is. He's more technical and he's more fast, but he doesn't throw punches or kicks. So how would we know? Because Takashi Sato is scared of throwing strikes for some reason, okay? In his last fights, he just is so hesitant that he always loses because he can't actually knock them out or win on points when you're not throwing. He throws like 3 strikes a round, and they're not hard, you know, they're not thrown with conviction. They're not throwing to knock the person out and win the fight or anything like that. It's almost like they're throwing so it doesn't look like he's match fixing, you know? It looks like he's bet on the opponent to win by decision every time nowadays. And he's probably going to get cut from the UFC, to be honest, because honestly, the guy needs to throw a punch. Because how are you going to be in the Ultimate Fighting Championship and you're just the Ultimate Walking Championship, right? You get in that cage, you're walking around, bro. Like, come on, fight, bro. This ain't the UWC, this is UFC. So that's Takashi Sato, that's why he's there. If this guy throws strikes, he'd be off this list, okay? Because his striking ain't that bad when he used to actually try, you know? But oh man, just, bro, please do something. You're not even that old. Just, come on. I don't want to see you cut. Just throw strikes. Thank you. Right, we've got 2 left. I've already made my decision, I think, on who's S tier, but we're going to go with the other person on this list, which is Sam Alvey. Yeah, Sam Alvey's here. Obviously, you know, smiling Sam Alvey. I'm surprised he's still smiling because he's basically on a 7-fight losing streak. I'm surprised he hasn't been cut. Obviously, if anyone remembers that fight with Mikel Olajejczyk, he basically just got more brain damage in that fight than basically all these fighters have in their last fights combined, because Mikel just destroyed him. It was the easiest paycheck of his life. And Sam, although he can catch people, it's just like he's so there to be hit. He's so hittable. I don't know why. It's just like every big punch lands on his chin. It's really weird. And I'm really surprised this guy arguably beat Ryan Spann, because, you know, Ryan Spann's beating Dominic Reyes now, and he basically beat John Jones. So it's a crazy world we live in. MMA math is crazy. And yeah, Sam Alvey, every punch that would knock out a guy thrown at him lands on his chin. So he's just really hittable. And his striking's not threatening enough to kind of push people away to, like, you know, oh, don't come near me, otherwise you might get knocked out. Because honestly, this guy needs cut. Likeable guy, but he needs cut. And he also needs to stop bringing his kids to UFC events, because he's probably just doing psychological damage to them, which is never good, of course. So, yeah, that's Sam Alvey. That's why he's there. And we've got 1 left. So you're probably thinking, who is the worst striker in the UFC? And, you know, I will say, this is, she's fought for a belt before. So you're probably thinking, who is it? Well, it's none other than Juliana Pena. Now, Juliana Pena, in my opinion, is probably the worst striker in the UFC. And if anyone wants to know why, just watch Amanda Nunes versus Pena too, and you'll find out, right? She runs in, like comically running in, and she throws straight punches, like a, you know that game you used to play as a kid where you could, like, you press down the robots and they throw punches. She literally throws straight punches like that, just like right in front of, they're not even straights, they're just like that, you know, they're like robot punches. But yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe she's fought for a belt. Obviously, Amanda Nunes, that must have been the easiest fight of her life. I think Amanda Nunes got a 50-43 scorecard in that fight, so it just shows you how bad Pena is. I don't know how she's got this far in the division, because there's a lot of good fighters in that division, so it's surprising to me. But yeah, Julian Pena, she can't strike at all. And it's actually a miracle that she even made it 5 rounds with Nunes that second time, because the first time was a fluke, let's be honest, guys. You know, I didn't obviously, it's not that fun when the same person just keeps winning and winning, but that was a fluke, because Amanda Nunes must have just thought, I don't even need to train for this woman, having watched her last fights. And honestly, I wouldn't really blame her, because if you're looking at her highlights and she's doing that, you're probably thinking that's a round 1 victory, no training required. But Amanda Nunes just gassed out, so that's kind of on her, to be honest. But yeah, Juliana Pena is my worst striker in the UFC. The award goes to her. She's really likable, so I don't do this like with pleasure. You know, she's a nice girl. It seems, you know, her interviews, she's really cheery and stuff. And but honestly, I'm sorry, but you're the worst striker in the UFC, in my opinion. So thank you guys for watching. I've been Tizzer MMA, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.